So what you're looking at is a pair of old speakers. They're obviously 70s vintage. These are the Realistic Nova 5 speakers. And so I got these from the thrift store, Goodwill, for $19.99 for the pair. So these sometimes go for like $100, a lot of these old speakers. So when I found this set for 19, I was amazed at how low the price was. But anyhow, when I got home and tested these, I found a little bit of something, and there's going to be a restoration project. And the first thing we have to do is fix the woofers, as they have a very common problem. Okay, so these front grills, they look like they're made of wood, but they're actually made of plastic, and they're held on by 4 small screws, one there, one there, one there, and one there. Cool thing about these is the Realistic logo can be pulled out and turned, so you can have your speakers facing up and facing sideways, and the logo will still be right side up. It's a cool feature. Anyhow, this is what's underneath them. We've got a typical woofer and tweeter, as well as a bass port right there. And as you can see, these were definitely standing upright because the dust is on the bottom of the port. Now, notice you can see right through here. And that gasket is starting to fall off. Those are 2 issues with this speaker, and they're both because of something called foam rot. And this has been discussed before on my channel. It's pretty much where this foam surround gets so old that it gets dry rotted, and in this case it shrunk into there. And it's so dry rotted that in this case, in how they built this speaker, this gasket was glued directly onto the foam, which these 2 parts used to be connected. And since the foam dry rotted, this gasket is now loose because it just fell off the foam because it's so bad. Now, how we fix this is there are kits available in this size off of places like eBay and Amazon.com and other sites like that have the right size, and you can just undo these and glue the new ones in. It's pretty simple, and that's pretty much the biggest thing that has to be done with these speakers. Now, it's a little bit different on the one on the top, because the surround is in a similar condition, plus it's actually cracked. But that doesn't make a difference in how we treat it. We have to just replace both because they are broken. So, not the whole woofer, just that one foam part. So, that's pretty much what we have to do with these. Now, I'm just going to take these apart and show you what's inside of them. So, I've got the woofer out, and in the back of this, it's pretty typical, and the whole gasket is now fallen off, as you can see, because as you can clearly see, it was attached directly to the foam, and the foam was rotted, so it just came off. I do love these plugs. These are, I think, called spade lugs or something like that. I like it when they use these instead of soldering, because you can actually remove them, and you cannot remove solder without a soldering tool. That looks way different without that gasket. That just fell off. Anyhow, there is some... It says the nominal on this is 9 watts, and the maximum is 30. That's pretty typical for the time period, but I don't believe that. Either that is not to be believed, or the wattage on the back, which is twice 30 watts, at 60 watts, is not going to be believed, because the speaker says 30 watts and the back of the speaker says 60 watts, so I don't know what. Maybe they're talking about the whole system, and they just assume you have a stereo set. It can take 60 watts and all. Maybe that's what's on the back of these. Now let's take a look at our tweeter and what's on the back of that. Okay, so here's what's on the back of our tweeter, if I can get that to focus. I don't think I need to, but it's got 6 ohms, and it's a 10 watt max tweeter, which is good for a tweeter because you're not really ever putting more than 10 watts into a tweeter. Anyhow, this woofer has a very weird ohm rating that I just noticed, if I can get that to focus. It's got 7 ohms. I don't know why that would be, because on the back of that, I swear, yep, it says 8 ohms. I don't know why that would be different between the two ratings. Once again, this woofer I know for sure is original, because I've seen pictures of these, and they have this woofer in them. Definitely looks newer than the 70s. These could be from the very early 80s, but I doubt that. I guess these speakers are falling apart on the woofer surround, but that's a very easy fix. Crossover looks like it's just, yep, it's just a capacitor and a resistor on the tweeter, which is currently out of focus. Again, it's just a capacitor and a resistor hooked up to that. Probably gonna change the capacitor out because, you know, it's from the 70s or very early 80s, so pretty much it's gonna need a new capacitor within a few years, or as of now it might. So that's another thing we have to do with these. I'm also gonna get whatever that insulation is out and replace it probably with a polyfill bat instead. So that's pretty much these realistic speakers, and I will do a sound test of how it sounds like right now to prove that these surrounds do definitely need replacing. As you will be able to tell, there's hardly any bass coming from these things. And that's pretty much because of the issue that we were talking about earlier, and yep, the bass is gonna hit. They just don't sound anything like they would with intact surrounds, so we're gonna have to replace those. And we turn up the bass, all we get is distortion. Especially out of that one right there. So that's why we need to replace the surrounds. And I may give you a better example of what that distortion sounds like through a kick drum on this app right here. So that kick drum has some power to it, and I was giving the speakers not even the full bass that that amp is capable of, and you're already getting distortions. So that's why we need to replace those surrounds, because that does not sound good at all. So that's why those are in need of replacement, is because they are either not producing much bass at all or distorting. So that's all for this video. The next video we will be going into more detail and repairing these speakers.